Hey Steve, can you hear me all right? Oh, all good. I'm standing in for Victoria. Um, so she asked that I stand in for her since she's on vacation. I have a certain consultant on the plan. It seems highly unlikely. I didn't have to last time they reviewed it, but I was just going to be on just in case. But yeah, if they ask a question or anything about it, I'm just here to answer that. Yeah, no problem. No, thanks, Blake. Appreciate it.
Good morning and welcome to the Tuesday, February 21st Board of County Commissioners meeting. We begin every meeting with an invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would please stand. Today we have Chaplain Bob Swales of our Sheriff's Department to lead us in an invocation.
Good morning. It's a real privilege to be here. You know, when I have the opportunity to come to something like this, I love to give everybody a proverb to think about. King David's son Solomon, who wrote most of the book of Proverbs as we understand it, has some really incredible things to say, and here's one for you this morning. Do not withhold good from those who deserve it when it's in your power to help them. It's pretty strong, huh? Let's pray. Gracious Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for giving us another day to serve you. Often it's easy for us to focus on what separates us from one another, but may our understanding that you have created us as one people remind us of the values that bind us together as Coloradans in this awesome state that we call home. We thank you for this day and for the opportunities it presents to us. And now, as we are quiet before you, prepare each of us with open hearts and broadened minds to face the many challenges that are set before us. And may the principles of justice, loyalty, and democracy be ever preserved in our county, and what we so easily say with our lips be authenticated in our actions and in our deeds. I ask now, Heavenly Father, that you would bless this day in this chamber, and would you give each board member a generous portion of your wisdom? Would you guide their discussions, their debates? And may the decisions that they make be appropriate, Lord, not only for today, but also for the days that lie ahead. And may you, gracious God, be honored by their good work. Thank you, Lord. Amen.
Mr. Borman, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item number 3.
Item number 3 is staff emergency items. There are none.
Item 4.
Item number 4 is changes, postponements, and notice of the next meeting. I'm unaware of any changes or postponements today, and our next meeting will be today at 1:00 p.m. for our land use meeting.
Item number 5.
Item number 5 is a consent calendar inclusive of items 5A1 through 5CC2.
Okay. Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak on anything on the consent calendar? Okay. Which items on the consent calendar? I believe that's a regular item. Are you talking about the model traffic code one? I believe that that is a regular item, item number 12. Okay, how about you? Same one? Okay. So no one here from the public and no one online to speak on consent calendar. Okay, hearing none, I will bring it up here for discussion and a motion.
I will, just as a point of discussion, congratulate my friend Mayor Glant Havenar of Palmer Lake to be appointed to the Board of Health. And I will move approval of 5A through 5CC2.
Second.
That has been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Okay, I will call the roll. Commissioner Williams. Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The consent calendar passes 5-0. Item number 6.
Item number 6 is comments by elected officials and commissioner liaison reports.
Okay, do we have any countywide elected officials wishing to speak? Any online? Okay. So I'll bring it up here. Commissioner Williams.
Yes, good morning. It is a wonderful day to be here. A couple events I had in the past couple days I would like to highlight. I was able to hear Martha McCallum speak on Friday night on her book called Unknown Valor about the individuals who were at Iwo Jima during World War II. And I bring that up because also on Saturday, one of my constituents turned 100. Her name is Marie West, just an angel, still in what I would call very good health. And I was able to go to her birthday party where she lovingly told the 70-year-olds that they were just a young'un. So, and she also served in the U.S. Navy, the Women Accepted for Volunteer Emergency Service. She joined the Waves and participated in World War II. So congratulations to Marie West. It was certainly my honor and privilege to meet her. Second, I wanted to extend my condolences to the family of Senator Marianne Thibodeau upon her passing. Marianne Thibodeau was a great senator for us in the 90s and 2000s, and also a very good parliamentarian. So I did want to make sure that I extended my condolences to their family because the funeral service is today and I am unable to attend. Other than that, my calendar, it's been a very busy week, of course, and I will state that on my calendar this week, I have I think the Public Art Commission is the last week of the month, plus our CCI meetings this Thursday and Friday. So it's a very light week for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate the opportunity to speak for a few minutes. As my fellow colleagues know, I attended the National Association of Counties meeting last week, legislative conference, excuse me. And we were successful in getting a few of our proclamations passed through the session. The first one is regarding keeping, I think it's called Section 42, with in place to be used to try to address border issues, and that did succeed. So that is now an interim national NACO position. The other one is the House resolution called Protect Kids from Fentanyl. This one is actually supported in a bipartisan way. Joe Neguse and Doug Lamborn are both sponsors of this bill, and NACO also voted to support that unanimously. So those two did pass and are currently NACO positions. The third that we recommended, we went to the Finance and Pensions Committee and asked them to support a proclamation asking the federal government to reduce spending. That was an interesting conversation, quite a lot of debate. That particular NACO board actually added the words, with the long-term goal to balance the budget, which really surprised me, and I was very pleased by that addition. This proclamation passed in this board 23-7 on a ratio of 3-1. But then when that went to the National NACO board for review, there were people that don't support this bill that voted on a vote of 41-38 to have it removed without discussion. We were not even allowed to debate it on the floor. That I considered to be very, very unfortunate. I feel like it was the National NACO board impinging their authority over one of the sub-boards that voted on a 3-1 vote to support this. And I consider that really, really unfortunate. So it will be my goal to try to continue to pursue this in the National Convention this summer. And hopefully we'll have some luck there. Will be some work trying to convince just a couple of people on the NACO National Board to change their position. With regard to other things we did on the visit, we visited the staff for Congresswoman Pedersen and also the staff for Congressman Buck. Because of the redistricting, both of these federal congressmen now have at least a little bit of El Paso County in their district, and we felt it was important to talk to them about Space Command retention, and we did do that, and those were successful meetings. After the NACO National Conference, I took a few days off and visited my mom in New Jersey, and it was nice to see her. I'd not seen her in over a year. She's in an assisted living center, and she's very happy, and I had a wonderful time with her. And then also coming up for this week, we have a PPACG Regional Economic Development Activity. I have the Airport Advisory Commission taking place on Wednesday, and then a Fountain Creek Water District meeting taking place on Friday. And those are my updates. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also got to attend the 100th birthday of Marie West. It was amazing. She actually was one of the Rosie the Riveters. She made munitions before she joined the Navy, so it was pretty amazing to hear about her on this weekend. I've got a couple things. Fountain Valley Senior Center meeting tomorrow afternoon, and then after that, the Airport Advisory Commission, as was already mentioned. Thursday and Friday, CCI meetings. We'll be discussing some legislative bills. And then on Monday at 1 p.m., the Regional Opioid Council. So that's what I've got coming up. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you. Lots going on this week, including some speech and debate judging I'm doing for students this week, which I'm very excited about. I also have a rescheduled fair advisory meeting that was canceled due to bad weather previously, regional building and those CCI steering meetings. And I also want to bring up something significant that happened that was reported kind of widely but hasn't gotten a lot of play, and that is a study done, the Cochrane study related to masking. And I'm sure we're all tired of hearing about it. And why is this relevant? Because we're not doing this anymore. There are some places that are still doing this, and this study came out and said masks did little to nothing. This is considered the gold standard of medical research. And so it is pretty significant that this is happening. I also think it's very significant that they talked about having pretty much the same opinion months and months ago, and yet they were very politically pressured to not come out with that information. I think that's significant, and whether we're talking about masks today or something else, including the fact that we've now seen lots of studies about COVID vaccines causing damage to children and especially young men. All of these kind of things are all related. The idea is that we had a lot of suppression of information, and we had a lot of just claims to follow the science, but we weren't following the science. We were led by people who were suppressing that information to get compliance. So I think this study is significant. I'm sad that we're not hearing more conversation around this, especially with our public health agencies. And I would continue to encourage us to all consider how important it is to have that free speech, especially in science, and continue to have these questions. And if we have platforms and governments that are willing to suppress that information, we should absolutely be questioning that, because we now have a lot of that evidence showing that there really wasn't proof to force the things on to people and residents that were being forced on residents. So I just wanted to bring that up. Like I said, I'm a little disappointed it hasn't gotten more attention. I think our governor deserves this entire state of Colorado an apology for, and forgive the language here, but for calling Coloradans selfish bastards who didn't want to wear a mask. I think he owes people an apology, especially in light of this new information. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Geithner. I too have a very busy schedule this week. I wanted to thank Brandon of our Legislative Affairs team and Commissioner Vanderwerf for taking on NACO by storm, and great information coming back, great advocacy. Last week I attended, because we didn't have a meeting last week and several of us were still here working hard. I wanted to highlight a couple of events last week that we didn't get to talk about here on the dais either. I attended the State of the Chamber, which was sponsored by the county, and then was also present at the announcement for the expansion of microchip here in town. They are already a Colorado Springs company, but looking to expand significantly here. You may have seen that in the media. This week I have the Board of Health meeting as well as the Colorado Springs Urban Renewal Authority. One commissioner sits on that City of Colorado Springs board. And with that, are there any other elected officials wishing to make comments? Okay, hearing and seeing none, we will move on to item number 7.
Item number 7 is Community Service Organization reports, and there are none.
Item 8.
Item number 8 is public comment on items not scheduled on the agenda. This is the public's opportunity to comment on an item that is not currently on the agenda today. And Madam Chair, we do have 3 citizens signed in person, as well as, I believe, 1 person online to speak.
Okay, excellent. How about we take the first one in person here? Can you read the names in order for us?
Yes, so first up we have Mary Galusha.
All right, you may approach and just announce your name. You're already signed in, and you'll have 3 minutes.
I need to move this down. Can you hear me okay?
Pull it down a little bit. There you go.
And I apologize for reading this. I don't have it memorized. Hello, my name is Mary Galusha, and I live on the east side of Colorado Springs in Antelope Ridge. It's an El Paso County District 2 neighborhood. And I'm here today to present my idea to create a senior center on the east side of town. There are currently 5 senior centers within the Pikes Peak area, as you probably know. The YMCA one on Hancock, which is going to be rebuilt, Fountain Valley, Woodland Park, West Side Community, and the Silver Key at Tri-Lakes and Monument. None of these are close or convenient for residents on the east side of town. Senior centers have proven to increase seniors' physical, social, emotional, and mental well-being by offering educational classes, activities, and other events that seniors are interested in, of course. And the new senior is now changing to become more independent. We want to be a mentor. We want to be more active and more digital than ever before. And a senior center offers opportunities to allow this change in our society. I brought a copy of the business plan that I had written up, a short one. It's 6-page, if I can give it to you for review. And then also, I have a senior demographics handout too, and that includes the census information of El Paso County tracts. With age 65 plus members, it showed tract D, which is a large tract on the east side. My community where I live is Antelope Ridge. We have 338 homes, and our average age is 65. Banning Lewis Ranch has now completed the retreat, which is a 55 plus community. And then there's a new Windermere subdivision just north of Antelope Ridge with 203 single family lots. And some of those might have seniors living there eventually with their families. So I'm looking for your support and involvement, perhaps jointly with the City of Colorado Springs. And I'm wondering, is there a department on your staff that I can work with? And also, would you happen to know of any investors who might be interested in doing this?
Great. Thank you for joining us today. Let's make sure that our clerk to the board gets a copy of your business plan if you're willing to share that with us, and that we have your contact information so that we can follow up. And then I think your resident commissioner has some comments.
Yes, so hopefully you may have already been in contact with our constituent services individual on some of these things. We did have some ideas for you. And so if you haven't received that yet, you will likely we do have your contact information from the previous email that you sent. So we will share that information with you.
Would you like to know quickly who I've worked with so far or not? I mean, the different organizations.
Is that all in the information that you have to
No,
share?
it's just my handout.
If you would be willing to share a copy with our clerk, I think that would be fantastic. And then we will be back in touch with you. Thank
We'll
you.
follow up.
you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you so
being here
much.
today. Okay, let's jump to the person online. Okay. I'll come back and we'll see if they're still there. Okay, again, this is for public comment for items not on the agenda, and we had someone else.
So I have a Mr. Tom Martin who signed in prior.
Okay, Mr. Martin. State your name for the record. You've already signed in, and you will have 3 minutes. Uh-oh.
Well, here we are again. I hope everyone had a good week. I guess I'll go ahead and start. A few months ago, I told you that when I was a child, I went to the state capitol. And the representative there explained to us how government worked. That basically, they made decisions by literally how many reports of yays and nays they had written down on a particular process or decision that they had to make. Well, we've come a long way from that. I have a problem with the word dais. And I think that it's you're putting titles on yourself. And here's the actual definition of dais, one of the definitions. Any raised platform in a room used primarily for ceremonial purposes. Originally, the term referred to as a raised portion of the floor at the end of a medieval hall, where the lord of the mansion dined with his family and friends at the high table, apart from the retainers and servants. I think that I was under the impression that the government was supposed to serve you. And that decisions weren't made by individuals, they were made by the people that elected you. So when it comes to, keep in mind, all of my comments are really primarily all to do with land planning and land use. So this is a narrow scope here. In general, I think you folks are doing a great job. And I don't want you to think anything else. But over the past few months, I'm going to repeat it. It's not pleasant, but this is my interpretation of what I've seen. You've put RV parks next to 2-acre ranchettes. You've put dog kennels in 1-acre subdivisions. You've rezoned rezones to put a hotel in Black Forest. All of these things, all of these type of issues have had citizens take time out of their daily lives to come to these meetings. Many of those people work, and they're really making a great sacrifice to come down here. I want you folks to understand that we elected you to serve us. It's not what you feel. You should be responding to how we feel and what we feel is proper. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. And do we have one more in person?
Have a Roy Kuamoto who signed in.
No, sir.
No.
Okay, that'll be item number 12, and I'll call for public comment at that time. Okay, is there anyone else, and were we able to get the citizen online?
This is Blake Nielsen up in the audio booth, and it looks like we didn't actually get a phone number for this portion. I think it was misspoken on that part. So,
Okay, they are always welcome to call in to any of our other meetings for public comment. Okay, hearing none others for items not on the agenda, we will move on to item number 9.
Item number 9 is a proclamation recognizing February as Black History Month in El Paso County. Longinos Gonzalez Jr., Commissioner, Board of County Commissioners.
Thank you. I don't know if anybody's here for this, but I'd like to move to approve a proclamation recognizing February as Black History Month in El Paso County. Whereas for generations, African Americans have exemplified the American spirit by overcoming struggles, breaking down barriers, and striving for equality for themselves and others. And whereas African American history plays a significant role in the American story, making this great nation a better place to live, work, and play for everyone. And whereas El Paso County and the Pikes Peak region has had among its past and present residents many African American leaders, educators, and civil rights pioneers with state, national, and international historical prominence, including Henry Allen Jr., Reverend A. Wayman Ward, Ruth and John Stokes Hawley, Lulu and Leonard Pollard, Samuel C. Hunter Sr., Samuel C. Hunter Jr., Clarence Shivers, Vera Gang Scott, Leon Young, Fannie Mae Duncan, and others. And whereas the strength and determination of men and women like these remind us that our region is made up of people whose contributions continue to make it stronger and better. And whereas President Ford officially recognized Black History Month during the country's 1976 bicentennial. And whereas since 1976, February has been designated as Black History Month in the United States, in which the stories of strong men and women and the events that have shaped the African American experience in the United States, Colorado, and El Paso County should be recognized and celebrated. Now, therefore, the Board of El Paso County Commissioners hereby recognizes February 2023 as Black History Month in El Paso County, Colorado, and is a reminder to everyone our continued commitment for collective action that uplifts and empowers, and our never-ending vigilance in upholding the American founding principle that all men are created equal. Done this 21 day of February 2023 at Colorado Springs, Colorado, the Board of County Commissioners of El Paso County, Colorado, Cami Bremer, Chair, Kerry Geithner, Vice Chair, Longinos Gonzalez Jr., Stan Vanderwerf, and Holly Williams, members, and attested to by Steve Schleicher, County Clerk and Recorder.
Second.
That has been moved and seconded. And do we have anyone here wishing to speak on this proclamation? If you would come forward and introduce yourself, and we'd love to hear from you. Thanks for being here today.
Good morning, everybody. I was told to come here on short notice. I'm Joaquin Mobley. I am the Senior Vice President of Community Works. I'm also a board director of the Black Chamber of Commerce. First and foremost, I just want to thank you guys for acknowledging Black History Month and all the accomplishments that the African American community here in El Paso County has contributed to our beautiful city of Colorado Springs, as well as the county. I just want to say how much that means to us and how much we appreciate you guys for just acknowledging us and, letting us know that we're here. So, thank you.
Mr. Mobley, thank you for being here today. And I think I traded texts this morning with several other of your comrades and colleagues who were not able to be here this morning, but we're certainly glad you were. I will bring it up here for discussion and comments, and then we will vote on the proclamation. And if you'd like to stick around, we'll do a quick recess for a photo. And we have several copies of the proclamation for you to take back as well.
Okay, thank you.
So I wanted to comment about Black History Month. I still just remember the first time I saw the Martin Luther King Memorial walking into the stone rolling forth. It was just pretty amazing to me, but also with the passing of Henry Allen, who was a good friend to many of us. He did so many things for our community. But I was wanting to comment on actually Lulu Pollard. I used to live by the park named in her honor and had no idea who she was. And so just a short biography is that she brought to attention the role of Black women in Colorado Springs. She founded the Negro Historical Association of Colorado Springs and received numerous awards and honors. She was inducted into the 1999 Palmer High School Hall of Fame. She earned a scholarship to Prairie View State College and Langston University. During World War II, she became the head of international accounting and purchasing for the U.S. government. And she is also an author of Retirement, Black and White. So I wanted to state this is a person I never knew her history before, and it's an honor for me to honor her today. Thank you.
Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you. This is an important proclamation, and I too could not help but think about our recently departed friend, Henry Allen Jr. And there have been several times over the last few weeks that I have wanted to pick up the phone and call my friend Henry and have some conversations and get some advice from him. And it's been a huge loss to not have that available. Nevertheless, I'm glad that we were able to honor him today in this proclamation and look forward to all of the new folks that we will continue down this journey with and to create our history here in El Paso County. Thank you.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And I too support this proclamation, and a couple of comments that I would like to make is just how important it is to recognize the value of everybody in a community and helping to make a community a better place. One of the things, my dad was a pastor, a minister, and in the 60s and 70s, he worked in the Columbus, Ohio area on local and regional ecumenism, and then eventually went to New York City to work for the National Council of Churches on the same issue. And ecumenism is basically for churches, is basically getting churches and helping churches to work together, because there was also a divide at that time in churches as well. And he did a lot of work in that arena, and I was very proud of that. And I also want to thank my colleagues for supporting adding Henry Allen to this proclamation. We all knew him. We all loved him. It's sad that he has departed us, but I am certain he is in a better place. But that was an example of a great man, a great community leader. He was a veteran, served in the military, then he served in law enforcement, and then he served his community and ran the Southern Christian Leadership Conference chapter here in Colorado Springs, which I'm very proud of that we have in Colorado Springs. I think it's actually the only chapter anywhere in the region from the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. And one of the key things about SCLC for me and why I think it's such a great organization is, first off, it was founded by Martin Luther King. And some of the key tenets for SCLC is to make sure that everyone is treated equally and fairly, but to always do it in a peaceful way and also do it in a faithful way with prayer and discussion and not with violence. That is something that I've always felt was a great component of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, and Henry led that for many years. So I'm certain that my fellow colleagues feel the same way, but I have a deep, abiding respect for Henry Allen, and I'm just thrilled that we were able to add him to this proclamation. And I think all of us do pray for him and pray for his family and pray for his friends. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And as is our tradition, we'll let the commissioner who read the proclamation finish up with the comments. But quickly, I just wanted to say I love it when, the proclamation said that this was deemed a federal holiday and recognized in 1976. And if you think back on that timing, that was significant and bold leadership at the time to do so. And I am very proud that we here in El Paso County, we named off 5 or 6 local names who have impacted Black history here in El Paso County. I'm so proud that we can. That we have so many that we can locally point to who have really moved this issue forward. And I think it's, I love looking out here at the Fannie Mae Duncan statue, and to think that that's really only been placed there in the last, I believe, about 3 years. But full recognition of so many who have contributed, and honestly, we could add hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of names locally to that list. And I am encouraged, and I hope that those of you here today and those listening are also encouraged that that your county commissioners value everybody and do want to treat everybody absolutely equally. And this proclamation says such. Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this is one of those great ones we get to do every year, and I'm very appreciative that I was allowed to sponsor this one this year, and for all the support we give back to our community, and the fact that we see so many people who have given so much to our community locally and across the country for civil rights. Some of the names were already mentioned. Very proud to see the Fannie Mae Duncan statue out there for the last several years now, and all the effort and fundraising by the general public that went into supporting that, and then all the names on there, and of course Henry Allen, one of my friends, and friends to all of us, a great local leader, and I'll throw out a few other names of great local leaders that are that next generation, keeping that voice going. I think we all know Miss June Waller, who continues to be a voice for our community. Henry Allen absolutely was. Rodney Gullat, another. And yesterday I got to participate in the League of Women's Voters annual birthday and ceremony. Dr. Regina Lewis was celebrated at that event yesterday. And so other great voices. And Mr. Mobley, thanks for coming down today. I appreciate it. If you don't know Joaquin yet, you should get to know him. His backstory is outstanding. Some difficulties, and he's someone who's turned his life around, and one of our local leaders that I think you're going to get to know his name. And so I ask people to get to know him now because he's going to be one of our great local leaders as well. So thank you, and God bless.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we will take a vote. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That passes 5-0. And I am going to recess briefly, and we will take a photo. Okay, we will call this meeting back to order, and we are on item number 10.
Item number 10 is the called up consent calendar, and there are no items called up.
Item 11.
Item number 11 is a resolution to issue a Class B no restraints secure transportation service license and the issuance of 2 Type 1 partitioned vehicle permits to Diversus Health, Inc., DBA Diversus Health, to provide secure transportation services in El Paso County. Jackie Allred, Clerk to the Board Manager.
Good morning, Jackie Allred, Clerk to the Board Manager. The resolution before you today is for approval of a Class B secure transportation service license and 2 Type 1 vehicle permits to Diversus Health. The applicant has met all the state and local policy filing requirements in accordance with the Department of Public Health and Environment standards for secure transportation services. The vehicles were inspected by the Office of Emergency Management on February 10th, 2023, and a copy of those are on the screen today. The licensee had one outstanding thing to provide, and that was the map of the service area. They're going to be providing service in all of El Paso County, and so that map will be in their vehicles. And I believe Lonnie with the Office of Emergency Management is here should you have any questions, and then also someone from Diversus Health should be present.
Excellent. Do we have any questions or discussion from up here? Okay. I have one quick one. Can you just remind us how long this approval is good for?
Yes. So the secure transportation service license is good for a period of 3 years, and then the vehicle permits are for a period of 1, and they will renew each year.
Thank you. And to clarify, I'm going to back up a little bit. This is a new process for us. State regulations changed, and so now the counties will be responsible for doing these permits for this type of healthcare transport, which is ironic because at the same time they also decided to centralize with the state the issuance of ambulance permits, which this body has done previously. But we have a good process, a very fair and open one, and this is our first application for it. So with that, do I hear a motion, which also needs to include pending receiving the map?
And Madam Chair, we do have the map. They did provide that to us, so we're good there now.
Great.
I would move approval of the resolution to issue a Class B secure transportation service license and issuance of 2 Type 1 partitioned vehicle permits to Diversus Health, Inc., as stated in the resolution. And thank you for being our first trial case. We appreciate you.
Second.
That has been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Okay. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 12.
Item number 12 is a second reading of an ordinance for regulation of traffic by the Board of County Commissioners of El Paso County, Colorado, adopting by reference the 2020 edition of the Model Traffic Code, repealing all ordinances in conflict therewith, and providing penalties for violations thereof, continued from January 10, 2023. Chris Strider, Assistant County Attorney.
Good morning,
Mr. Strider.
Commissioners. We are on for second reading of this proposed ordinance. The Model Traffic Code, as a reminder, is the most recent version that was put in place in 2020. However, in 2021, there was a bill passed in the state legislature that changed all of the penalty portions that would be adopted as part of the Model Traffic Code. And so when we adopt the most recent version, we did have to amend it to reflect those changes from the state legislature, as well as a proposed parking ordinance. The second reading was continued to allow for additional stakeholder and public comment on the proposed adoption of the traffic code and the parking ordinance. I'm joined today by Deputy Offit from the El Paso County Sheriff's Office to address any concerns from an enforcement standpoint, and from Josh Palmer from County Engineering to address how this ordinance may interact with the engineering criteria manual and how that governs parking in the county. And of course, I'm here to answer any questions as well.
I think, is there a staff presentation from either of those as well?
On the second reading, no, I don't believe so. This was, there was a presentation on this at the first reading, and the proposed ordinance has not been amended by staff at this point.
Okay. Do we? I think Commissioner Geithner has a few questions.
Got it. And I think we have some citizen comment as well.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, so I just wanted to follow up on some of the comments that we've gotten regarding this. And so specifically, you know, whoever feels the most comfortable answering these. But we have had some comments related to fire, potential issues with fire and, you know, width of roadways and those type of things. And my understanding that those things are covered in other places other than the model traffic code. Could we just address some of those concerns and how those are already mitigated in other areas?
Yes, absolutely. Some of the concerns that we received comment from members of the community addressed whether or not emergency vehicles would be able to safely and effectively access roadways if the roadway is blocked by one of these specialized vehicles. That is governed by individual fire districts within the county. So there is an enforcement mechanism through those fire districts to prevent blocking of the roadway where it would affect emergency access. As far as the safe navigation of roadways, just from a pedestrian and traffic standpoint, that would be governed by the engineering criteria manual. In discussing the interplay of the engineering criteria manual with the model traffic code, the way this would work is that the citizens of the county who may observe some sort of potential violation of line of sight regulations and other safety precautions would have access to that engineering criteria manual to county engineering to determine whether or not that vehicle is in specialized vehicle is in violation, and then code enforcement would be responsible for any type of penalty assessment there.
Thank you. So I'm gonna use my hands here. So basically, we have the engineering criteria manual and fire districts over here. We have our parking code over here, and together we're covering all of those things. Is how I'm looking at this. And then additionally, just if you can verify for me. So today, all of these things are allowable. We're not allowing anything extra with this model traffic code. What we are doing is disallowing some things that are currently allowable, correct?
That's correct. There's no existing parking ordinance in the unincorporated El Paso County, and so this would be a novel ordinance that is, again, not, as you said, not taking away anything, not granting more permission for people to park differently, rather restricting the way that they're able to park.
And if I could, Madam Chair, I'm taking, I know a little bit of time here, but I wanted to say I appreciate what we're doing here from the perspective of having some urban areas too that are in unincorporated, the Cimarron Hills area, areas like that, they're not in the city, they are not covered by city ordinances, but unfortunately, some of them have had trouble with people parking a trailer of trash on their streets and just kind of leaving it there for indefinite amounts of time. And so I really do appreciate that we're taking some steps to deal with those type of irresponsible uses of our public right of way. So I'm looking forward to seeing those things curbed for our residents.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And two, I appreciate that last part because that was going to be my one kind of comment before public comment comes up. We'd gotten some early emails in particular that kind of implied that we should oppose this or told us to oppose passing this resolution if we didn't add one or two more things. I think there was some misunderstanding that if we don't pass this, then everything is allowed generally. And so that's correct and what's been explained here. So we need to pass something. If it's not 100% of what some people want, understand if we don't pass something, it will be zero of what you want in terms of restrictions and protections for your HOAs and residents. And so I just do want to clarify that because I did receive some early emails and indicating we should oppose this because they thought we were granting more flexibility to people to do this. No, it's the opposite. We are trying to restrict this. And so I just wanted to clarify that for the record. Thank you.
I think Commissioner Williams has a question.
Yes, I have one question. And so previously in Colorado, we were what was called a race to the courthouse state, which means if your documents were recorded before someone else's, that's how things worked. Also, too, the HOAs have always been a super lien on the property, meaning they can foreclose first. And so this is just obviously you're our attorney. You can only give a legal opinion to us. And so I've spoken with the county attorney, and it is our belief that existing recorded covenants that include parking restrictions would now be overruled by our county ordinance. Is that correct?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Okay, thank you.
Those existing covenants, I believe, have been disqualified by statute.
Okay.
Okay, Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Thank you. And, some of the things that I've, been contemplating about whether to, vote for or against this is the recognition that a lot of neighborhoods are very, very different. But with the legislation from Denver taking some of these HOA authorities away, that and then the county having nothing, as was stated before, regarding ordinances, this is now a process to put a few restrictions on there. But I think actually almost the more important part of this is the fire districts and the need for fire safety and what they have some authorities, to do. And, one of the challenges, I think, is we have tons of neighborhoods all over the county with very different constructs. Some have wide roads, some have narrow roads, some have curbs, some don't. There's a wide variety of those kinds of things. So I think from the point of view of safety, right, if you've got a narrow road and you've got a fire district that has enacted a particular ordinance that says, hey, on all of our roads in our fire district, we must have some type of access for fire safety. You must be able to get a fire truck in and get a fire truck out. Maybe under some circumstances, you must be able to get a fire truck in and have egressing cars at the same time. And these particular considerations about fire safety are actually really, if I understood correctly from the staff, are actually the legal purview of the fire districts and not necessarily the legal purview of the county. So really, whatever gets enacted here, whatever words it ends up having, I think it's important for every constituent, every citizen in El Paso County to know it will be actually a mix of two things combined together. Whatever the requirements that the fire district requires and whatever requirements this would require, they would have to be taken together. And I think where there can be some variability that can be instituted is going to be predominantly within the fire district's requirements because of some roads being very narrow, in which case it might not be possible to park anything on that road because the road is too narrow for the fire truck to get in if anybody parks on it with anything. And then in other cases where the road might be pretty wide and you could have parking on both sides of the road and still have plenty of room for a fire truck and egress of cars. So because of that variability, I think the districts will have the capacity to deal with those unique characteristics of different roads. This ordinance, or this consideration that we have here, is a county-wide kind of consideration, which means we have to have a balance here. I think it is important for us to do something instead of have no ordinance at all. At the same time, if we write something that's too restrictive, that might satisfy some local communities, but then actually look like we're imposing things that are not necessary on other communities. And therein lies part of the problem. Therein lies part of the challenge. So I think the mix between the fire district requirements and this requirement, those two added together, I think allows us or allows the different communities to have roads that are safe and those kinds of things. And it's really the mix of the two that becomes important here, as opposed to just this item.
And Commissioner, I would just add that the county engineering and engineering criteria manual is also applicable countywide, and that's a third element.
Thank you. I appreciate your mentioning that, because that is true.
Okay, Commissioner Williams.
This is nice because I'll get most of my comments out of the way. I actually printed out now, I must say I'm not very interested in reading the engineering criteria manual. It is long and it's hard. But I did print out the Colorado Model Traffic Code. It's 200 pages long. I felt as if I were rereading and studying for my driver's license exam. There are other things that, one of my biggest concerns with all of the emails that we've received, which I have read, is the Woodmore area and the narrow roads that they have in Woodmore, where sometimes even if a car is parked on the side of the road, it becomes very difficult. It's my belief in the Model Traffic Code of Colorado, and when we all get our driver's license, we are agreeing line of sight, meaning that you have to leave 30 feet from a certain area so that you can see to get out of your driveway. And there's other things in there as well that I think I may have read something that you always have to make sure there's 2 lanes on a road. And so I think that's a lot of the things that we are concerned about are included in that model traffic code. I didn't read the whole thing, obviously, because I didn't want to have to go take my driver's license exam again. But it is, I felt like I was literally reading and preparing for a driver's license exam. Thank you.
Thank you. I have one more quick question, and then I want to move on to public comment. At any time, this body can bring back an ordinance for amendment, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, with that, I know we have several members of the public here who would like to speak, and we'd love to hear from you. If you would please state your name for the record and let us know.
My
your
name comments.
is
John Rickman. I'm president of the Glen Eagle North HOA. We have 483 homes in the north end of Glen Eagle. I'm probably the one that you have to blame for the firestorm of opposition to the parking ordinance, parking section of the ordinance. When 1139 was passed by the legislature, I contacted Commissioner Williams, discussed the concerns that we have, not necessarily over individual vehicles that are used for daily transport, but the specialized vehicles, the RVs, the boats, et cetera. She suggested that I be involved in the process, so I contacted Ryan Parcells on July 5th of last year, requesting to be added to the list of people that would be involved in developing this ordinance. On December 6th, I hadn't heard anything, so I sent an email asking for a response. Is anything being done on this? On December 30th, I received a response from Ms. Rudder saying it's already been up for the first reading. There had been absolutely no reaching out to the stakeholders that we know of to be involved in the creation of the amendment to the Model Traffic Code. Now, I understand that there are conflicting things here. There are different rules that will apply. Mine is basically saying, why weren't we allowed to be involved to start with? The concern is that you are effectively, by passing this change to Section 1202, allowing permanent parking of specialized vehicles anywhere on public property that abuts the property that's owned by the same person that owns a vehicle. That's what this says. The model traffic code prevents parking unless you're broken down anywhere except in commercial or residential areas. Residential areas are the problem here. If you're in a rural area or you're in a commercial area, you've got room to park larger vehicles. When you're in a residential neighborhood and you park an RV, especially in some of the tighter areas that we have, and we've got a mix in our association of large areas and small areas, you can't see to back out. You can't get to the mailboxes. It's going to affect snow plowing. There were two simple fixes that could have been made to this to make this acceptable. One of them would be to not allow the exception that was provided in residential areas. That would institute that 72-hour requirement. And then add to that 72-hour requirement no more than 3 overnight consecutive parkings in any 1 week period, because this would prevent folks from taking that type of vehicle, driving it out to work one day, bringing it back, parking it overnight, and do that every night. We're looking at the possible accumulation of enough of these vehicles that people are going to figure out that they can park them there instead of paying to store them. That's what we want to get away from.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Next. Come on forward. Please state your name for the record, and you may begin.
Good morning, all. My name is Roy Kuwamoto. I'm here on behalf of myself, my wife, Deborah, and my neighbor, Leslie. We all three live in Meridian Ranch, and along with what this gentleman just said, I'm very frustrated by an issue that is currently happening in our neighborhood, has been happening since November of 2022, and that is this big bus-like RV is parked in our residential area, has not moved for 4 months now, not 1 inch, okay? I walk this neighborhood every day. I have to look at this behemoth. I did not move to Meridian Ranch to live in an RV park, folks, and I'm sure you probably feel the same way about your neighborhoods, having this big bus like, which I have a picture here. Am I able to show it?
On the overhead. I think if you set it down, Blake can work on zooming in and getting color for us.
And if you flip it over.
That's okay.
Okay. Anyway, so my point is this. I've called the El Paso County Sheriff 3 times. Nothing can be done. Call your homeowners association. I went to the Meridian Ranch Homeowners Association meeting in December. It sat down and they said because of House Bill 22-1139, there's nothing they can do about it. So basically everybody's passing the buck. Sheriff can't do nothing, homeowner can't do nothing. So I got a hold of my representative through her office and found out about this new bill, which now after hearing what this gentleman says, I don't know if this is going to resolve my issue, but how is it that somebody can park a bus-like apparatus in front of their house for 4 months and nobody's doing anything about it? It's extremely frustrating, and I can guarantee if any of you folks up on this commission had one of these things parked in your neighborhood, you'd be pretty frustrated too. So one question I'd like to get answered, maybe by that gentleman that spoke before, is this resolution going to do anything to help us to get this bus-like vehicle parked in an RV park somewhere where it should be instead of a residential street out in Meridian Ranch? Can anybody answer that question for me? It won't? It is right in front of his house. So how is this resolution going to resolve that, folks? That's why I'm here today. I've taken all the proper steps. I'm out of time. I went to the sheriff, I went to my homeowners. How's this going to get resolved? Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any others who wish to speak?
My name's Peter Billy. I'm the Vice President for the Woodmore Improvement Association. WIA is the largest HOA in El Paso County. We're also part of NEPCO, which is 49 HOA associations, which represent over 17,000 homeowners in El Paso County. Not all of those are in unincorporated El Paso County. Our issue is with that last sentence in section 1202, and it states, there shall be an exception to this ordinance where it is shown that the owner of the specialized vehicle also owns a parcel adjacent to where the specialized vehicle is parked. Excuse me. Our take on that is, as has been mentioned, they can park there into perpetuity, and we now have an example where no one can do anything, whether it's an HOA, the sheriff's department, or the fire department. Our issue, I brought it up, I know sent out notices to all of you on the fire district issues. Pushing the buck to the fire district is not going to solve these problems. They do not have the manpower to come out and look in neighborhoods to see where RVs are parked if it's going to create an issue for them. We have over 55 miles of roads in Woodmore, of which close to 90% are level 2 roads, which means the pavements is anywhere from 24 feet down to 20 feet wide in our residential areas. I don't want to have to sit there and be calling the sheriff's department every day to come up and take and look and see if somebody is in violation of a fire code. It's not going to happen. They don't come up anyways. We see the El Paso County Sheriff on average twice a month up in our areas. Anytime there's a 911 call, our public safety is there before the sheriff shows up, and 9 times out of 10, it's been dispatched to Palmer Lake or Monument, the town of Monument. We are, as I mentioned, in an unincorporated El Paso County. We look to the board. We look to you to help us. That's where the help needs to be. And now I'm asking you not only to help us, but help the fire department, help the fire district, because now he wants to put the blame on them, or put the onus, no, I'm sorry, sir, not the blame. He wants to put the onus on them to control this, or he wants to put it on the roads group. How you been, Jesse? It's been a while. So that's what we're asking for here. We're asking for you to take a look at it, get us involved, as has been mentioned. We're more than happy to come in. I understand that people need to be able to park these specialized vehicles near their homes. I get it. I have a lot of friends that have specialized vehicles, whether it's RVs, boats, trailers. And yes, you need a time period, 72 hours. If you want to pack up, you got to pack up, you got to unpack when you come back. We get that. But to allow someone to park there into perpetuity, no, we don't agree with that. So what I'm asking today is either strike that sentence from the reading and have it come back, that last sentence, or disapprove it now and come back to us with a better resolution for the whole county, not just for certain areas. Thank you for your time. Any questions, comments?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any others wishing to speak on this item? You can come forward. Please state your name and you can begin.
Good morning. My name is Brad Frieden. I live at 15331 Richfield Lane. That's in the High Meadow at Fox Run neighborhood in unincorporated El Paso County. That's just northeast and adjacent to the Glen Eagle organization. I thank you for the chance to address you this morning. I feel these same sentiments. Part of what I just wanted to express, when my wife and I decided to move into our neighborhood 17 years ago, it was important to us that we had covenants that would help ensure the quality of the neighborhood and prevent certain things from happening that would be detrimental. And everybody in our neighborhood, that's part of what we bought into. That was something we felt was a value, even though it was a certain kind of a restriction. And now with this House bill, stripping the HOA from being able to apply what we thought were very reasonable kinds of restrictions, like this 72-hour rule. We've been doing that for over a decade. It's worked well. People could work on their RVs. They could get them ready for their trip, take them, do some maintenance on them, whatever. But the idea of just letting them park and stay forever, really, we feel is inappropriate or a neighborhood kind of setting. I think you've seen in some of the inputs from us asking, can you add these three things to this ordinance that would restrict that kind of parking for residents in front of their own properties and make it reasonable like this? Give them enough time to do the things they need to, but not this kind of thing forever. So I guess I'm kind of asking that saying that we need our local government to do what they do best, represent the will of its own people, and please adjust that traffic code to include the desires of local residents. We've mentioned that RS zoning. This is the kind of areas that have the smaller lots, the traditional looking neighborhood that you'd expect to see in Colorado Springs City proper, but it's in the county, and it's where it's not appropriate, we feel, to have these kinds of permanent parking. And so, so if you please consider that, just as the other gentleman mentioned, to take off that exception for the owners of property, or to strike that section from there, then I think you've got a good ordinance that can work. And I welcome any questions you might have for me. Okay, thank you very much.
Are there any others wishing to speak on this item? Blake, do we have anyone online? Yes. Would you mind coming to the dais where we can hear you? Sorry, or to the podium. You can have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Deborah Kuamoto, and I live in Meridian Ranch. And to support what all of the gentlemen said previously, I have one question. We chose to live in a covenant-restricted residential area for a reason. And I'm trying to understand, why would you want to take away the governance of the HOA that we pay for and try and inflict it on these different agencies? I don't understand that. Why is that? Why would we want to strip them of the ability to govern and rule the covenants that we signed up for?
Okay. Thank you. And let's see. I think, did we have anyone online? Okay. So I'll bring it up here for discussion. And any other questions we might have of staff.
Yeah, staff questions.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So with regard to the lady's question, just help me maybe to make sure that there's clear understanding here. It wasn't the board. I'm sorry. It wasn't the Board of County Commissioners that took that away. It was the state legislature that took that away. Yes, that's correct. And I'll just ask the staff to validate or invalidate my statement. Is that accurate?
That is accurate, Commissioner. House Bill 221139 was passed by the state legislature, not by the county.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
All right, thank you. And so just to kind of clarify a couple of things, because I'm not sure if the questions, the way they were asked or statements made might have confused some people. So the rules of permanence of allowing something in front of their own house applies to just motor vehicles or to all of the specialized vehicles that are listed?
I'm sorry, Commissioner, are you asking about the exception?
There was a statement that this would allow things to be permanently in front of somebody's house. What would be allowed permanently or, continuously? Just the motorized vehicles, RVs, you mentioned mobile homes, or all things like the fifth wheel, the examples, et cetera, of specialized vehicles?
So the exception does apply to all specialized vehicles covered in the parking ordinance. The exception being that you can park a non-motorized or motorized vehicle adjacent to your parcel for outside of the governance of this ordinance. What this ordinance does not do is allow for the unsafe parking or parking in violation of any of the other enforcement elements that we previously discussed as far as the county engineering and the local fire district. So,
What about broken down vehicles?
I'm sorry?
What about broken down vehicles?
I believe
Or
that's
RVs?
broken down vehicles is covered elsewhere in the model traffic code, so that again doesn't fall under this subsection.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you. So I wanted to address a couple of things. There's just a lot of different, it seems like misunderstandings of what this specifically is today versus all of the other pieces that are related. So I want to point out that today or at any point in the past that I'm aware of that I have lived in the state of Colorado, I could have taken my personal RV and parked it in front of any of your homes and there was nothing you could do. Because we did not have any rules that prevented that. Today, what we are doing is providing a mechanism so that can no longer happen. So that is what we are gaining here in this situation, is actually the ability to stop anyone, which is the case in many parts of my district, from parking anything that they wish on any street in front of your home and not having any ability for us to deal with that. That is what has been the reality on public roads, whether covenant restricted or not, because covenants only restrict a homeowner, not the public. So that is what we are dealing with today, is solving a piece of that problem for many residents. In addition to that, I know that there's a request to strike the one line regarding in being adjacent to your personal property. There are many, many people in different areas of El Paso County who for years and years have used the public right-of-way and have had vehicles such as this. For us to strike that would mean, I don't have an estimate of the exact number of people, but likely hundreds of people who would then immediately be forced to either violate our ordinance or to find an additional burden, a storage facility, a cost associated with that. So that makes me very uncomfortable, especially when we have dealt with the safety issues. We do have things in place that deal with line of sight. We have things in place related to fire. To force that on all kinds of other residents, which could very well create a burden and hardship for those folks living in some of those areas, even potentially retirees who are living on fixed income. That makes me very uncomfortable. And so I think that as written, we've weighed a lot of these concerns, and I'm pretty well happy with where we are in balancing those needs, understanding the realities of what has always been the case in El Paso County. We are providing more protections than homeowners have ever had, and from a government perspective, than they have ever had in El Paso County. And so I am not willing to impose a burden, but would like to be able to provide the ability for homeowners who have had these issues in front of their homes, in their neighborhoods, to give them a mechanism for dealing with that while not overburdening every resident in what I think would be an unreasonable way. So I'm fairly well satisfied with this. I understand there may be some potential changes just from a definition standpoint, perhaps from Commissioner Williams, and I'm open to those. But from the wide perspective of the balance that we struck, I think we have come to a pretty good balance on this. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I think I'm
Williams.
ready to make my amendment and to do some comments. So Blake, you have a copy of the amendment. So I've now lived in an HOA for 6 years. So, and I was HOA president last year as a moment of temporary insanity. But I also live in a private neighborhood. So my roads are private. So we still have the ability to regulate who can park in front of our house. And I know that the actual expense for HOAs to take all of their roads private is impossible. considering just all of the national regulations with the ADA, you would have to upgrade it to. And so the other option that was proposed was to limit according to different zoning districts. And I like to think of it as two separate containers because we are a county the size of Rhode Island. So we have so many different unique neighborhoods. And so I like to think of land use in this container and the motor vehicle and the sheriff's duties over here in this container. Now, Adams County made a very specialized ordinance that actually I didn't really like, but Adams County has a tax rate so much larger than ours. I know our Northern El Paso County homeowners associations know every year how we highlight that we're running, I think this year on $316 per citizen. And so it's hard, and it would be very hard for us to have an extra code enforcement officer just to run around and issue tickets on motorhomes. That would not be within our budgetary ability. And so my only concern in reading through all the emails, so I did appreciate all the amendments were sent in. I do think that when a person has an RV, they do need that 72 hours in front of their home. And so the proposal that we had, the specific words "without motive power," would have excluded motorhomes, which is the actual official definition in Colorado state statute for RVs. They're called motorhomes. And so my proposed amendment would be to take out the "without motive power" and instead stick in motorhomes as well. And so that would still allow individuals to park their motorhomes on the street for the 72 hours adjacent to their property while they're getting ready to go motorhoming around the country, which is quite the lifestyle, I hear. And then, but would still allow neighbors to be able to enjoy the neighborhoods they've moved into without a permanent parking structure of a motorhome. So now I think we've got, this might be our parliamentary procedure after I was talking to Mr. Klafke this morning, to move approval of the model traffic ordinance with an amendment that I have listed here. So striking "without motive power" and adding in motorhomes. And I don't even know if I'd have a second for this, but that would be the proposed amendment. Thank you.
I think we have a question from Commissioner Geithner.
I do have a question. I believe what Commissioner Williams is proposing is changing the definition of specialized vehicle
That's correct.
to include motorhomes, but it is my understanding that this would not change the exclusion from the private being in front of the private residence.
That's correct. The exception is
So
not
that
part of
exception remains regardless of this definition.
Correct.
So this would.
Well, then that doesn't work, but still, I'd like to add motorhomes in.
So this would be on any place on the street, just making sure that that was included for the normal 72 hours, of course, without that exclusion.
That's correct. And,
Okay.
this would not affect any of the other regulatory schemes as well.
Then I will happily second this.
So to clarify, there is a motion and a second to move forward with the model traffic code with this section 1203 changed. So a single motion, it's not a motion to amend, it's a motion to approve with this amendment. Any other discussion?
Yes, Madam Chair, if I might.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Thank you. If I could ask the staff to come up, I think Commissioner Geithner was trying to produce an understanding about what this model traffic code would do without these added words and what it would do with these added words. I would like to seek some additional clarification on that, specifically with regard to motorhomes. So let's say without any of these amended words, what does the does this proposed model traffic code do with regard to motorhomes? And then I'll ask the same question when words are added in.
So without the amendment proposed by Commissioner Williams, the definition of specialized vehicle, which this parking ordinance covers, would not include a motorhome as defined by statute, which is, in my mind, I picture the bus that the gentleman described earlier. So that could be parked anywhere on the street, not subject to this ordinance.
Now, that could be, so, some of the nuances here is whether without these changes, without the changes, can a motorhome be parked in front of anybody else's house or only parked in front of the owner's house? Or is there a distinguishing feature between these two with the 72-hour limit? So, if you will, kind of describe it in layman's terms, like without the amended words, where can a motorhome park for an owner?
Without the amended words, a motorhome could park in front of a neighbor's house longer than 72 hours, could park anywhere that is, again, not governed by those other regulations or by other sections of the model traffic code. With this defined term of motorhomes being added in, they would not be able to park in any portion of the street or adjacent to anybody else's property for longer than 72 hours.
Okay, great. So without the words, somebody could park a motorhome anywhere, notwithstanding other provisions in the model traffic code, which you used as a caveat previously. And thank you for that, because there are some other circumstances. With the words, that would only be permitted in front of the owner's house. And to some of the citizens' comments, and I think this also then applies to Commissioner Geithner's comments, the change would be to, if the words were added, it would mean you couldn't park your motorhome in front of someone else's house.
That's correct.
Okay.
For longer than 72.
For longer than 72
That's
hours,
correct.
which is certainly a better situation than if they could just park them anywhere for as long as they want. So adding those words doesn't necessarily get all the way to what some of the citizens have an interest in, but is of some measure of benefit, I think, is the way I could interpret that.
That's correct. And just to add my interpretation of this ordinance as it would be amended by Commissioner Williams' addition, previously you had specialized vehicle including motorized and non-motorized vehicles, and then further down in the definition saying without motive power. I think there is some confusion in the language there, and maybe even direct conflict. And so
it's a little bit of difficult language, because there's a sense here of kind of a double negative, and it makes it not necessarily that easy to interpret. And that's why I think kind of describing it in layman's terms is more appropriate. Now, having said all this, if there is a fire district and you are dealing with a narrow road, and let's say that person were to, these are all, particular circumstances, and every neighborhood is going to be different. But if you had a situation where, let's say we were to accept these word changes, the individual can only park in front of their house, but the road is narrow. And then the fire district says, well, you can't park anywhere on a public street if you can't get a fire truck through. Let's say that fire district actually has that provision, okay? Then the motorhome, parking the motorhome even in front of your own house still would be inappropriate. Now, I don't necessarily know much about how a fire district enforces that. That's some of the comments from some of the constituents. So that really isn't a statement about how they enforce it or not enforce it. It's just, would it, under those particular circumstances, there could be a situation where the fire code would say, yeah, you still can't even park an RV that you own in front of your own house because you can't get a fire truck through anyway.
that's correct. I think the public safety role of the fire district would surpass any authority granted by this ordinance.
Okay. And then one last question, but I think it's appropriate. It was mentioned previously. I'm going to just make the point. I appreciate. I know it takes time, and it's a lot of hard work. But I appreciate citizens coming here and expressing, their points of view and their concerns. These are really, for me, these are really, really important. And I know it was a sacrifice of your own time, but I think it's very important that you do it, and I'm glad that you did do it. And I think the statement made earlier is whatever we do today, wherever we end up today, that doesn't mean the dialogue is over. The dialogue can continue, and then we can see what that might mean going forward. But the dialogue can continue at that point. So thank you. I appreciate your responses to those questions.
Commissioner Williams.
Okay, this is as clear as being able to see in a cloud. So more than 2 feet in front of you sometimes. Okay, so adding in motorhomes, then I may want to also do another motion for the Woodmore Amendment, which was, we're calling it the Woodmore Amendment in our internal documents. And that Woodmore Amendment says no specialized vehicle as defined herein or inoperable vehicle as defined in the state statute may be parked or stored on public property or in the same 150 linear foot section of the public right-of-way for more than 72 consecutive hours, because that's what I'm seeking to do. I still would like motorhome in the specialized vehicles, but what I'm seeking to do is to speak out for my neighborhoods, my 49 HOAs in NEPCO, that after 72 hours, the sheriff has the ability to come out and ticket the vehicle, give a civil infraction, and those kind of things. That's what I'm trying to do. And so I have that in my internal documents. So I guess after this motion, I would like to make another motion, or I don't know if I would make a substitute motion.
Can you clarify? So the copy that I am looking up does have exactly as you just read it, with the exception. There will be, so you just read the first sentence, and the second sentence is, there shall be an exception to this ordinance where it is shown that the owner of the specialized vehicle also owns the parcel adjacent to where the specialized vehicle is parked.
If I can clarify, I believe the Woodmore Amendment would eliminate the exception.
Would eliminate the exception.
Correct. It would remove the exception for parking in front of your own home for more than 72 hours.
There is already a motion and a second.
Madam
Yeah.
Chair.
Yes.
Thank you, Stephen Klafke, Chief Deputy County Attorney. So just procedurally where we are, we do have a motion and a second on the table for approval of the model traffic code with the previous amendment as displayed on the screen from Commissioner Williams. What is being talked about now is potentially an amendment to that motion that would be that can be properly brought at this time from a commissioner, and it would need a second to further amend the motion that's on the table. My understanding, I believe, of what the proposed amendment would do is under subsection 1202.2, just essentially delete the whole second sentence. So there would be no exception. The definition would remain the same, but there would be no exception. I think that's where we are.
Sorry, I do have the printout if we wanted to display it on the overhead. But what I would, I guess, like to do is make a substitute motion that addresses that Woodmore Amendment. So subsection 1202, subparens 2 shall state that no specialized vehicle as defined herein or inoperable vehicle as defined in the state statutes, and I'm not reading the specific subsections there, may be parked or stored on public property or in the same 150 linear foot section of public right-of-way for more than 72 consecutive hours in any 1 week period. And I don't know if you want to put that up, Chris, on the overhead. Sorry about my notes.
And if I might, maybe, Madam Chair, if I might, thank you. So, Chris, if you might be able to, please, I don't mean to hold you from getting back to the podium, but if I understand correctly, it might be that Commissioner Williams, because we have a motion and we have a second to the motion, Commissioner Williams may be interested in making an amendment to that motion, and then Commissioner Williams would need to seek a second. Then we would vote only on the amendment to the motion to see if that amendment gets added in. And I think the amendment to the motion might be the removal of the second section, a second sentence in subsection 12(2). So what I'd like to do is ask you the question: if that second section, a second sentence in subsection 12(2) were to be removed, what would it mean about what this model traffic code does with regard to motorhomes? Could you give us an interpretation of the meaning of that if that second sentence is removed? And what I'm just trying to do is understand, what does the code do without removal of the sentence, and what would the code do with removal of the sentence?
So we'll start with without removal of the sentence. If the second sentence of subsection 12022 remains, then, and we also add in the language defining motorhome as a specialized vehicle, then the owner of the motorhome would not be able to park in front of anybody else's house, but they would still be able to, for longer than 72 hours, but they would still be able to park in front of their own home, subject to any restrictions from fire districts or the engineering.
And that's the condition where the second sentence remains.
That's where it remains.
Now, what happens when it's removed? Thank you.
If the second sentence is removed, then the motorhome would only be able to park in front of their own property, in front of their own parcel, in the same 150 linear feet for no more than 72 consecutive hours. So it would effectively eliminate the ability to park in front of your own home for longer than 3 days.
Okay, thank you. So, Commissioner Williams, I may be misinterpreting what you wish to do, but it sounds to me like you might want to try to make an amendment to the motion to remove the second sentence of subsection 12022.
Okay, so I would like to offer a substitute amendment that states,
And Commissioner Williams, it would be an amendment to the motion.
I'm sorry, an amendment to my motion that states subsection 1202 parens 2 shall state, no specialized vehicle as defined herein or inoperable vehicle is defined in Title 42-6-102, 1.5 Colorado Revised Statutes. Now, where do I go? Maybe, this is where I lose what my motion should be. Maybe parked or stored. See, what part of the sentence do I need to remove?
I have a suggestion here.
Okay.
I believe what I would like to do is there is currently your original motion on the table, and it was seconded with the original change that we saw on the screen. What I'd like to do is, first of all, see if you're willing to retract that original motion, take it off the table, and then say that again.
It's just a longer process. If she moves to amend the amendment with the strike, we would wait for a second. If there's a second, we would move forward on that, which would be a little bit faster, but that's just my suggestion.
Well, I think that that it's important to get this correct and be very, very clear. What I'd like to do is actually take a break for a few minutes. Let's clarify. Let's get it all down on paper, and just like you came in with this proposed amendment, let's have it ready. All right.
Yeah, and I think what you want.
We're taking a recess.
I don't know if you'll get a.
Okay, we will call this meeting back to order. Thank you. I know that I appreciate your patience, but I think when we're dealing with complicated things that apply to a very large region, it's important to be as specific as we can. And once we kind of do what I call making sausage up here, it becomes less and less clear to those people that this is going to affect. So taking the time out to make sure that we have the correct language is important. So with that, what we currently have is the original motion to approve the model traffic code as presented with added language and clarification of adding motorhomes as previously done on the typed sheet you saw before. So that is the current motion on the table that was moved and seconded by Commissioner Geithner.
Do we need to excuse Commissioner Gonzalez?
No,
Okay.
we'll just,
All right, okay. So I would move to amend my current motion so that it states the following. Subsection 1202, parens 2 shall state, no specialized vehicle as defined herein or inoperable vehicle as defined in Title 42-6-102, subsection 15, may be parked or stored on public property or in the same 150 linear foot section of public right-of-way for more than 72 consecutive hours and or 3 consecutive overnights in any 1 week period.
okay, that is a motion to amend the original motion. Is there a second on that motion to amend? Okay, hearing no second on that amendment, the written portion there is null. There we go. And so the current motion on the table is the original one, which is a move to approve the model traffic code as stated with the following displayed on the screen.
I'm ready to vote, but thank you to my colleagues, our people in the audience, and especially to our county attorneys for helping me out.
Thank you, and thank you for your patience. Okay, any other comments? Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you. Regardless of how this vote goes, I just want to reiterate what I stated before. Thanks again to those that came to testify because you took time out of your busy schedules. And also, this doesn't mean the conversation is over. So the conversation can continue, and I just think that is important for everyone to be made aware of it. Just because things happen in Denver and then it forces us to act into certain kinds of activities and so forth and so on, I do feel that what we are doing here is, even though it is not sufficiently satisfactory, certainly for some people that are in the audience and for others it might be in the community, if it were to pass, it would be going from nothing at all, no ordinance at all, to something that has some measure of restrictions, and that certainly, I think, is a progress. And the key thing for me is safety. I want to make sure that we have an ordinance that allows for people to be safe in their communities from fire risk or man-made disasters or natural disasters or whatever it is. Safety is important. So I think about that a lot. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Vanderwerf. I too am encouraged at the thoughtfulness, given the breadth of what we're suddenly tasked with doing here as a county. I don't think that this is the last time we will see this. I don't even think it's the last time that we will see it, even in the next year or so. So I think that paying attention to how this is going, again, from nothing to something. How this is going in those neighborhoods is going to be very important. I want to potentially just stay in touch and know what's going on, knowing how this is going. And if we need to reconsider this, we can do that at any time. But I think it is I think it's where we need to be for right now. With that, I will call the roll.
Madam Chair, I'm so sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
Stephen Klafke, Chief Deputy County Attorney. If we could just get a motion to excuse Commissioner Gonzalez because we're about to have a substantive vote, just for the record, prior to the vote on the ordinance. I apologize for that.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a motion to excuse Commissioner Gonzalez?
So moved.
I'll second.
That has been moved and seconded. Commissioner Williams?
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf?
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Commissioner Gonzalez has been excused from this vote. So back to the original motion on the model traffic code. I will call the roll. Commissioner Williams?
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf?
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That passes 4-0 with Commissioner Gonzalez absent, excused. Okay. Item number 13.
Item number 13, a resolution to reappropriate 2022 contracts, projects, and purchase orders from various fund balances and to recognize revenue to the 2023 budget. Nikki Simmons, Chief Financial Officer.
Hello, better? Okay. Hi, Lori Cleaton, County Budget Manager, and I'm taking the place of Nikki Simmons today. So what you have there before you is our annual reappropriation resolution, and this is for projects and POs contracts in the 2022 budget that are in process but are not currently completed. So what this resolution will allow us to do is roll over those unspent funds from 2022's budget into 2023 in order to complete those projects. In your packet, you have all the detail of all the POs and the projects that we're asking you to approve. And if you have any questions about any of those.
Any questions? Okay, any discussion and a motion?
I would move approval of item number 13 to reappropriate the 2022 contracts, projects, purchase orders from the various fund balances, and to recognize revenue to our 2023 budget.
And I'll second.
That has been moved and seconded. Any other comments? Okay, Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That passes 4-0 with Commissioner Gonzalez excused. Item number 14.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lori.
Item number 14, Department and Committee Reports, Non-Action Items. 14A, Monthly Sales and Use Tax Report, December 2022. Nikki Simmons, Chief Financial Officer.
Again, Lori Cleaton, County Budget Manager in the place of Nikki Simmons. And what you have here before you is our 2022 final sales and use tax report. This contains the December activity that is the most recent consumer activity in December that was remitted to the state in January and received by El Paso County in February. So this is our most current sales tax information, final for 2022. Bottom line, we received $152,158 in this. This is the Department of Revenue retail activity. So the final was 6.29% in 2022 over 2021. So this is the largest portion of the sales tax, sales and use tax collections that El Paso County receives. Next, this is the use tax on automobiles that's collected by the clerk and recorder.
This has been trending down all year and ended up at 9.89% less in 2022 over 2021. This primarily is due to the number of vehicle registrations for new vehicles being down this year, in addition to less vehicles in inventory for people to purchase. So we've kind of seen that trend all year. Next is the historical sales tax collections by the Pikes Peak Regional Building Department for construction materials. This ended up 17.29% less in 2022 than 2021. But 2021 was kind of a historically high year due to the higher number of construction activities happening. A lot of the downturn in 2022 was due to less construction, less permits being pulled. And then finally, all components of sales and use tax. This is an overall 2022. We were up 4.66% over 2021. Typically, this is a good year. Anywhere between 4 to 5% is what we see typically. So 4.66 is right in that range that we would typically expect. I think that's all I have there. If there's any questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So it may be preliminary to provide an answer to this question, but I'm going to ask, and you can let me know if it is preliminary or not. But
okay.
With the way that the Tabor law works, where you can make adjustments year over year based on inflation and population growth, it seems like that percentage there is small enough that whatever is collected will be usable. I don't think we're going to have a Tabor limit restriction as a result of that, because inflation was at least 6%, probably higher, and then population growth was at least a few percentage points.
Right. Yeah. In 2022, we are expecting to be over Tabor, our Tabor limit. So we do have that. Anything above that in reserves. After 2022, we anticipate it to be more level.
Okay. I'd be interested in the staff coming to me and talking to me about kind of how those numbers are working out and why you have that comment. We don't need to do that here, but
sure.
I'm interested in that.
Yeah, Commissioner, we can certainly come back to you with those details. I would say that, and Lori can correct me, we'll be significantly over our Tabor cap in 20.
Yes, that's right. We're looking at roughly.
I think in 2023 it'll be more leveling off, but we won't be close.
Right.
Okay. I look forward to a follow-on conversation. Thank you.
Any further questions?
Any other questions?
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, item number 15.
Item number 15 is the addendum, and there is no addendum.
And item number 16.
Item number 16 is executive session, and there is no request for an executive session.
We are adjourned.